6/20, so I'm making a motion to continue 7 Revere Street to December 17th at 6:20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion to continue the ANRAD for 119 Man Hill and 390 Hadley to December 17th at 6:20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I make a motion to continue 31 Candlewood Drive to December 17th at 6:20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wanted to make a motion to cancel the 17th meeting.
I'll second that.
Getting kind of busy.
I
Getting
know,
kinda busy.
It might be very busy.
Yeah, let's see what
No
happens.
joke.
Maybe
So
people
we
will
got a
move
few
along.
minutes before we can jump into.
Do we have any IDAs?
No.
No,
Wow.
none.
What's going on? So certificates of compliance. You ready to talk about any of those, Amy?
Yeah, so, 115 Glades septic, 7 Marshfield Ave septic, 41 Wampatuck, no work commenced, 41 Kavanaugh, NOI, single-family home, all 4 of
Did that all
those.
check out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good to go, okay.
Good.
The other one's hold.
The other ones we're gonna hold.
Okay. Do you want to, anything else, violations, any correspondence?
We have a matter down at the south side of Peggotty, which a letter went out for some rocks that one of the owners put there, so.
They put rocks on the beach?
No, not on the beach, just kind of on their perimeter of their property. And it could be a DPW thing, it could be an enforcement thing, but anyways, I'll stay tuned on that one. Got a bunch of different people looking at it, trying to get in touch with the owner.
He had a contractor dump him, is that what you're saying? Oh, okay,
Yeah,
It's kind of a tricky spot. That's where
I know.
that makes that corner,
yeah.
and the water comes over, and it's gone over on Dickens Row and Townway Extension before,
Yeah,
and,
That-
but
last year that area got pretty hard.
pummeled, yeah, pummeled.
yeah. Well,
So,
it does, but he did should have just asked us. for
well,
something.
and it may actually be diverting water
Yeah.
onto some people, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, stay tuned on that
Well,
one.
there have been issues down there before, I do know that. Many. Maybe you want to mention about Wednesday at 10 o'clock, the site visit?
Okay, so,
Other way.
well, that's not a meeting, it's a,
Yeah, but just.
MIPA site visit at the Hadley Country Club, which is filed, but they haven't opened with us yet. And so members were invited to go to the tour of the golf course and look at the project site, but it's not a weigh in and ask questions, it's really just to listen and show up.
What time is this?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, Wednesday.
So far, we have 3, and I just need to know so that I can tell the
They're gonna have
golf
golf
course
carts.
folks, because they're gonna have carts for us.
So we don't have to walk the course.
And it looks like it's gonna be
So it's not
clear
a site
in the
walk.
30s.
It's
a
a
site
site ride.
Yeah,
We gotta get a ride. Can I drive?
Yeah, it'll be fair and
So who can go now? Who?
I'm going.
Rich, Penny, Lisa.
Okay.
So that's an interesting project, which you'll get to see more about. I know you have the NOI, we're letting the other agencies weigh in
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
And then, so last
And you've been
week,
thinking about a consultant for that one?
I have a consultant, we haven't engaged him yet, but we've talked to him. I think
Great.
it's gonna be a good fit. Art
Good.
Allen from Ecotech does bigger projects, so I think it should be good.
Okay.
I mean, the high school track project is gonna be a pretty big filing too. But on that one, it's the ANRAD, so they've asked for a continuance, we can't really discuss that, but we have the peer review went out on that. So we have Steve Ibis went and took a look at the flags, we just got his report in today.
Okay.
Haven't even looked at it yet, but it looks like he did a pretty thorough job as usual, and
That must have been delineated back when the high school was renovated. I bet you there's another file in there somewhere.
I think so too, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a historical file. Jen, we looked for that file, right?
Yeah.
But it's pretty old. but yeah, things shouldn't have changed too much
Right.
on that. Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot going on.
I'm sure.
For sure, depends on what direction you want me to go down. But we've got, the Border Street adjudicatory hearing did not settle, so that was
Imagine that.
many hours of disputing down to the BBW line. And, yeah.
That can't be a surprise.
And him in the, yeah, in the, a grievance to show how you have to show how you're aggrieved under the Wetlands Protection Act in order for them to take it further, so.
So what happens next with that?
Oh my gosh, we have a whole chart of, things that, memo due this date, site walk. But anyways, it should all come to a head February 28th. Another full day. Actually, I think it's even scheduled for 2 days. They give you 2
Wow.
days, so.
Will the final decision be DEP, or?
Yes, well, so DEP already issued a superseding order, but so then they would issue a final order based on the outcome of the adjudicatory hearing.
Mhm.
But, so they're trying to see if the parties would settle, but it hasn't happened at this point, so.
It's not a surprise.
It was tried to settle, but.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of issues that, a lot of times in life, that there's no middle ground on.
Right.
You know?
Well, somebody.
At least we're not bantering it around.
Yeah.
So we're ready for 2080 in the harbor. Just before that one, so I don't forget, the Coastal Advisory Committee is sort of reorganizing, some new members, different people, and so I've been serving as the liaison for that, and I just didn't know if anybody else had an interest in that. Richard did it,
I did it 1 year.
and then I've done it, and I don't mind doing some of it, but if someone else has an interest, it's advisory to the town. Basically, the meetings are like once a month, and they're meeting with the DPW and then some different coastal folks, and trying to work with other groups in the town that have concerns about foreshore protection and all that. So it's interesting. And I just didn't know if there's anybody else that wanted to do that. I think, is it a 7-member?
Yes.
I'm
Board.
interested, but if you wanna do it, you can do it. I don't wanna do the beach. Somebody's gotta do the beach things. Why don't you go to the beach? No.
I don't really want,
Okay.
who wants to do the beach?
Don't those two overlap a little bit?
No,
No,
not really.
not at all. No. One's recreation, the other one
Lisa didn't want to do the beach?
is, I don't, well, she hasn't been here for a while, so.
All right. Well,
we
we'll
haven't
check
been able
with
to ask her. Okay,
her on that.
I don't mind if
You can't get off trails.
No, I'm staying there.
Good.
If you're, overwhelmed, Frank, I'm more than happy if it's only once a month.
It isn't a big deal.
I know it isn't.
And I don't mind doing it, but
Then
I
you
also
can
want to
do
make
it.
the offer
Oh, we
up to anybody else.
doing it.
Richard might want to do it with his wife.
No. One of us in one place is
I'm
enough.
just saying that if you don't want to do it, Frank, I will,
All right.
because I have more
Well, we'll
free
buck up
time.
after the meeting,
Okay, we can
All right.
back up, yeah.
unless anybody else wants to jump in. All right.
Gluttons for punishment.
2080 in the Harbor Road, raise and reconstruct. So on December 3rd, 2018, at 6, did I get this one right?
Yeah.
6:25, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Sarah and Arthur Gibbs to raise and reconstruct a single-family dwelling on property located at 28 Inner Harbor Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Paul Marabito from Ross Engineering Company, representing the owner, Sarah and Arthur Gibbs. They own the existing dwelling at 28 Inner Harbor Road. This is the beach area. This is the salt marsh in this area here. In the storm of March, the lower level of that house was completely filled with sand. So the existing house was on a slab with a concrete foundation, which was structurally unsound. So they engaged Rivermore engineers, the structural engineers. It was determined that the only option was to raise the existing dwelling and reconstruct it on a wood pile foundation. The structural plans were prepared and they were filed with the notice of intent application. They're proposing to put a house that's 24 feet wide and 46 feet long with a 4-foot open deck on each side and a 10-foot deck on the ocean side and the marsh side. The access to the house is on the westerly, or the northwesterly side of the house. There are 2 existing dwellings on each side of it. The existing septic system's in this location, which is intact and will continue to be used. There's 2 stairways, one to the beach area here, and one to bring them down to the lower level from the first floor. The house will be elevated on piles in accordance with the FEMA regulations. With that, I'll end and answer any questions you may have.
First, what is the size of the house there now? How much bigger are they going?
The existing house,
Yeah,
it's the same size as the existing house. This is a crosshatched area.
okay,
It's the
so,
existing house, and
yeah.
and they're gonna maintain that,
okay,
so they can have some open decks on the side.
okay. The other thing is, have they done a Title V on that septic down there? Because I know there was some issues with different septics on that street.
I believe they did. I was told they did.
You were told they did.
We didn't do that.
No, I just, because that would definitely.
Where is the septic, Paul?
Pardon?
It's
right
right on
here.
the side.
There's a septic
Right.
tank. There's a
On the
leaching
north
tank
side.
On the north side here. It's just outside the concrete block foundation, which is on a slab.
Do you have a plan from Rivermore?
Yes.
The house just about takes up the
You
whole.
should have one also.
lot.
I might, but I don't have it.
From Rivermore?
That's right.
I know you, we're cutting
Is
back on the
this
number
it?
of copies
Oh, I
we
got-
asked.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Penny's got it.
Do you want it, Frank? Or you can take his. It falls. Do you want this from Rivermore?
What's the construction
That
plan?
wasn't a trick question, Paul. I just wondered if you had.
It's just a question. You can do it. That's it. These are 2 stairways. This is the ocean. That's the street.
Thank you. I'll give it back to you. Penny's got one. Go ahead, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm all set, I think. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't like the north arrow, Paul.
He doesn't like the arrow.
You decide.
It says
That's why
it's,
he said it.
I did not. It says it's magnetic. Actually, I think I probably did.
It's gonna go over.
Yeah, about 20 years ago.
Well, they've come a long way in 20 years.
Yeah. I don't have any questions.
Richard?
They'll move the house back while they'll move the existing house back while they put the,
They're tearing it down, this is a
Tear
new
it down.
one.
They're gonna
oh, they're gonna, I'm
completely
sorry,
raise
I
it.
misunderstood.
That's all right.
Okay, it's not a raise and rebuild, it's just a,
Half of it's filled
New
with
house.
sand already.
got it. Thank you, I'm good.
No questions.
Is that the one that's all boarded up?
Amy?
No, I mean, the house is clearly has
It's
substantial
already,
damage,
it's already up on,
so,
oh, it's on the slab. Oh,
going
okay.
up is a good solution.
She has an open one there.
Yeah, they had a question about the Title V, whether or not it had Board of Health approval. It's the same number of bedrooms, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, those are Board of Health issues, but it looks to me like, as long as it's driven piles with no grade beams,
Yeah.
which we can specify as a special condition, it, should be conditioned.
Okay.
And that just makes.
Is there, I'm sorry, Penny.
No, go ahead, Frank.
No, just, I know that there's been a lot of work on the dune out in front of that house. Are we all in compliance? Is this site?
This is a separate filing, separate site. So
Okay.
the dune out in front is actually not on this property.
Okay.
It's a different project.
So we don't have any enforcement orders on this?
No, the enforcement's at bay on that dune. Different project. And those orders are set to expire.
She has another house, I do believe, that's at the north end of the
Okay.
inner harbor. And this is one that isn't
No, this
great.
is the furthest north.
Yeah.
No, there's a house on each side
No,
of it.
there's
But I mean,
another house in
of the
there.
one that she owns.
Oh.
She owns to the south.
I think she might own this one.
Yeah.
All right, that's,
I just am concerned that we already have some enforcement issues with this property. And wonder if they need to get it dealt with.
With this particular property, not that I'm aware of, Frank, not
I'm
anything
not aware of
ongoing. The dune itself we had some stuff that came up, before last winter, so, in 17, in the fall of 17, but I don't know, other than the town maintaining kind of, they did a little bit of work this spring on the beach after the storms. So nothing's really been going on. There's a lot of material out there, hasn't got washed through yet.
Right.
my problem, Frank, I'm with you, is that I could have swore the dune was from, the first house was not part of it, and then the rest of the houses were part of, the one, the sacrificial dune they built,
Right.
and then expected us to take care of, which we, right from the get-go
Well,
said.
I don't know, it's all
Yeah,
convoluted.
I
They
know,
were-
it is convoluted,
Right.
believe
But it's
me.
off property, this is a separate standalone
Right, the real
project.
key is, like Frank said, are there any enforcement orders against this property? Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure,
Not that I'm aware of.
but I know it got very sticky, the
Right.
whole mess.
Okay, if there's no outstanding issues with the property, I don't have a problem with this
We
project.
can check that,
But
Frank.
I think it's important to be sure.
Do you want to continue it while we check into that?
I don't think so. I mean, we can, do you know, Paul?
I've never heard anything wrong with this one on the property. I first met these people probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago on Labor Day weekend. When I met them, they were talking about elevating the house up, they just bought it.
Yeah,
But when I saw the foundation, concrete block just on a slab, I said, I don't know how you're gonna pick this thing up. I said, you'd be better off to raise the dwelling, and they thought about it. Well, I think
They
Mother
waited,
Nature
so-
considered
Sure.
so now they gotta replace the whole.
So I guess the only piece I'd add to that order then is if there are any outstanding issues that they need to be dealt with.
Yeah.
That could be part of their orders,
Right.
all right?
Well, I mean, one of the initiatives that the town has as a goal for all these properties
Yeah.
in Peggotty Beach is to retreat. But
Right.
it doesn't particularly make sense that this house retreat at this point in time.
Right.
Have you talked about that, Paul?
Pardon?
Retreating?
Pulling the houses. There's been discussion that
No.
further south on Peggotty, where those houses are out in the,
Ocean.
yeah, there we go.
On the beach. Wait a minute.
But they're actually having discussion about whether they could possibly pull those houses back.
But they have the space
On the
here.
other side of
Yeah,
the Inner
there
Harbor
isn't
Road.
space here.
But I think that
When-
that area, they seem to be fairly stable,
No,
relatively stable.
Those houses you're talking about would be over here.
They down here.
This is the old roadway layout,
Right,
Yeah, right,
and those houses are on
Yeah,
this side
yeah.
here, these are further back.
yeah.
I mean, this is the marsh in this area. I mean, this is all sand now, where we're down to the creek.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Paul, you can have this. You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. to
Anybody in the
close.
audience for this one?
No, I make a motion to close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Any more questions?
Let's fix that north arrow.
6 McDonald Terrace, raise and rebuild. On December 3rd, 2018, at 6:30 PM, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, regarding the application of RJB Development Corp. to raise and rebuild a single-family residence and construct a new mixed-use building on property located at 6 McDonald Terrace, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Great. Good evening. For the record, my name is Gregory Morris. I'm a registered engineer with Morris Engineering, representing the applicant RJB Development, Bob Berwick. Property's at 6 McDonald Terrace. This is a notice of intent associated with a new mixed-use building at that property. McDonald Terrace is located in the Greenbush Overlay District. Referring you to the plan here, the top left viewport is the existing site conditions. The property line here is shown with the bold black line. McDonald Terrace is at the bottom. The lot itself is 12,512 square feet. It is entirely upland land area. It's previously developed with a single-family home centrally located on the lot. Associated with the home is a driveway, utility connections to McDonald Terrace, and lawn and landscape areas around the house. The resource area that we're talking about with this one is with respect to the Herring River. The Herring River, which is over next to New Driftway at the Ice House or Rivershed
Are you folks here
property.
to see, can you see,
Yeah, kind of.
see
We
enough?
actually looked at it, yeah, out there too.
Okay.
Thank you.
That Herring River, the 200-foot setback to that encroaches on this property, cutting it approximately a third of the way through the property. So everything on the left here is riverfront area. I'm going to show you a quick aerial photograph just to give you a rendition of where we're talking. This is the Driftway right here. This is the Duval Dance Studio, the Rivershed Restaurant, the Ice House here. This is McDonald Terrace. So again, the river here, the Herring River, has a bank that's very well defined. It is a stone-lined bank. The commission's looked at it with several other projects throughout the past couple of years. But the 200-foot setback, again, does encroach on this property about a third of the way through it. The yellow being the proposed road. So the notice of intent we filed depicts what we're doing. What we're doing is we're putting the new building up here on the property. Behind the building is a new 11-space parking lot. Around the building is landscape and lawn areas. The building is serviced by utility connections to McDonald Terrace. All of the utilities are outside of the riverfront area. Those include connection to the public water supply, public sewer service, and electrical service. The drainage associated with the parking lot was reviewed through the planning board. The planning board hired Merrill Associates as their review consultant, and the planning board actually granted this project unanimous approval last week. The drainage on the site goes through a system consisting of a tree box Filterra particle separator, and then it's infiltrated in a series of chambers underneath the parking lot. The soils here were very good for infiltration. Looking at the mitigation that we're proposing associated with work in the riverfront area, we have a stabilized construction entrance at the entrance to the site. We're wrapping the entire site with erosion control barrier. The entire riverfront area here was previously disturbed and altered. With the finished product, the alteration of riverfront area is 4,841 square feet, which is under the 5,000 allowed by the standards. If DEP had no comments, I'd turn it over to you.
Penny?
No, I'm okay.
So this has to do stormwater too, Greg? It doesn't?
So the planning board reviews stormwater as part of their site plan review, and so they've signed off on
They
that.
signed off.
Correct.
So there is no other outstanding, I thought in the email there was still an outstanding review process on this
No,
project.
the review was final.
It was.
For the planning board vote, right.
That's what you're talking about,
And the
okay.
stormwater is also although it was reviewed as part of the planning board special permit, is that what it was,
Yes.
special permit?
Yep.
It's also incorporated into the order of conditions, so that it's not that we're not including stormwater under our order.
It's just,
But it's already been reviewed as
just
part of the other.
referred
board.
to in our order.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and
Right.
it will indicate that it meets the requirements of the Mass Stormwater Standards by virtue of the review that was done.
Cool, all right.
Richard?
I got nothing. Thorough.
Paul?
No questions.
Jen?
No.
Amy?
Well, I mean, I don't really have much either. I think that the project gets some leeway as a redevelopment, so it's already a developed site in the outer riparian. You know, we can check the box on the stormwater. They provided us with an alternatives analysis. Mitigation, I mean, I'm not sure I quite follow the mitigation of providing limited work in a construction entrance, because you would provide that anyways, but, that would be my comment. Seems like it's appropriate.
From the audience, and just you want to state your name and address, please?
Mary Lou Consilvio, 22 Ford Place, we bought McDonald's Terrace. Our concern is that the specific project is so large, the building that they're putting on it is so large, that the excavation involved, and we understand, you know, all the different things that they've done to avoid any runoff and that type of thing, but I was on the websites, the Mass websites, Oliver, and looking at the different flood zones and things like that, and they basically almost touch that lot, and it looks like they even, the next lot, they go on to it. Our concern is when you're, on paper, everything looks perfect, but in the real world, things aren't perfect, and we're worried that it will be a problem. Perhaps butters could end up with water in their basement. I've seen developments where that's happened. They excavated the project and it seemed to be perfect, but then after it was done, the neighbors end up with water, either they're in their yards or in their basements. And our concern is just that the project, the building itself is so massive on the size of the lot that it's on, that our concern is, you gotta clear cut it to do it, so we're just very worried about it.
Okay. Did you bring those concerns of the stormwater piece is typically the one that deals with
And since he
drainage
showed me the map.
and things like that, and it sounds like that went before the planning board, so we're not necessarily reviewing that. Did you have an opportunity to get
We
any?
did speak with them, but it
Not
didn't seem to go,
saying.
Okay.
wasn't listened to, I guess.
Right.
Our concerns weren't necessarily listened to.
So, I'm also familiar with that Greenbush area and some property there as well, and to Mr.
Yeah.
Morse's point, most of that's very, very good gravel. So it drains really well. It also sits up on a hill with, like the ice building and the others being fairly much below it. I
Yeah,
wouldn't
they
be
would
surprised
more
if
at risk.
if the bottom of that foundation was probably close to the parking lot elevation.
Our top foundation's at approximately 23.
Yep.
And yeah, the grade adjacent to us is at elevation 14 down in that parking lot.
So that's so much lower that it, even though they're inducing a fair amount of water into the ground under that parking lot, I'd be fairly confident that that water isn't gonna come back towards you. I mean, I had property at the bottom of Ford Place, and when they sewered Greenbush, we had water table problems because they were also doing the train at the same time, and a bunch of the water from the train was following the crushed stone in that, and it wound up giving us trouble in our basements at the bottom of Ford Place, which is considerably lower. So I understand your concern. I mean, what this is gonna do is it is gonna be overbearing on your property. And, I mean, the town decided with the train going in to create an area where there could be increased density for the use of these properties. And I know it seems sort of out of scale. It's the same with the apartments on the corner of Stockbridge and Country Way, but it's a zoning piece that was allowed because they felt with the train and the parking and all those sort of things. But it definitely has changed the flavor of that area, that's for sure, and that's been brought up. I know they're having workshops again with the planning board. What our commission would try to look at is we're primarily dealing with this riverfront area. And it's a little tricky because there's already an area that's developed between the river and this property. So it's not like they're right on the river and we'd say, well, geez, it's important that they keep additional vegetation or some other things. And unfortunately, there's already a big area that's developed, and it's been developed for a long time. In fact, at one point it was a contractor yard, and it was really dug up, and then a paint store, and there's a whole bunch of things that have gone on there over the years. So the only question that I'd have, Greg, is that they are removing a fair amount of vegetation. And to Amy's point, saying that mitigation is either an access road or a silt fence, it doesn't really sound like much mitigation, permanent mitigation. So I'm just wondering if there's any additional plantings or anything that can be I mean, it's pretty full.
Sure. So to that measure, maybe I used the wrong word. What I meant was mitigating measures, to mitigate any
Yeah.
erosion or sedimentation.
Sure.
That's what I was talking about, not mitigation as in buffer mitigation.
Okay.
But, yeah, so we have the standard erosion control around the site, the stabilized construction entrance, that's all on the plans. We did include with the planning board package, and it was approved in their project, pretty extensive planting plan. It actually has 47 plantings on it. It was prepared by Kennedy's Country Gardens. That plan is this, and it includes plantings along the back of the lot line. It also includes a number of plantings here along the southern lot line inside of that riverfront area. Right now, that area where this house is largely cleared. It's maintained primarily as lawn associated with the house. You can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 trees that are coming down. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees that are coming down. The remainder of that's all lawn areas. So we're
Right.
taking down 5, but we are planting 47 new ones.
There's some pretty large maples, I think, that are on that
It
site.
is, there are some large trees there.
What's the slope, Greg, that goes from that property down towards the river? That's off-site, but it's a fairly steep slope. Is that vegetated or protected or anything?
That's yeah, I mean, it is a steep slope. I would say it's probably 3-to-1 or 2-to-1 even.
Right.
At points. It's got kind of some sparse vegetation on it. We were adding plantings on that actually. There's an easement that extends 10 feet onto the 17 New Driftway property, and that 10-foot buffer is where we're doing the majority of those 47 plantings.
That easement is part of your project?
Correct.
Greg, did you submit a set planting plan?
I didn't submit the planting plan, no.
Could we get a copy
Certainly.
to go in the file?
Is that infiltrator, the catchment part of that would be great on that Filterra?
The tree box filter is essentially
It's not gonna be a problem for
It's
drainage.
a concrete box. that
Unfortunately, it
gets
doesn't do a
installed
lot
line
in
with
terms
the
of a
curb,
buffer
and it's a
over
curved inlet.
Right.
And in that box, there's a bunch of filter media, and there's actually a tree that grows out of it.
Well, that's for
So
real.
it actually has a tree. We have 3 of them installed at 50 Country Way, and there's 1 installed at the brewery site as well.
Wow,
So,
I hadn't seen that before, because I was wondering if there's a special maintenance that you had to do with those things.
Not really.
So the parking lot's graded, so all the water's gonna go into that and feed
all
it.
goes
And
into
feed
that.
the tree.
So also, that parking lot's pitching away from your property, that's pitching towards the hill as opposed to towards your house. Eventually, it should come back under the parking lot in
Seen
terms of infiltration. But should that be blocked or something, that water should be sheeting towards
But it is cool.
the ice building and things like that. Everything on that property is sloping away.
Yeah, that's
And
what
then-
I thought would be
That's some pretty good
interesting.
I mean, it is some good
peas.
planting.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions.
Right, well,
Keep that for the record.
the planting plan, thank you.
So is that, I mean, does that fall into any of our orders? If it's dealt with the planning board, should we have some piece in our order that just says that this thing will be planted in accordance
Well,
with?
we can just incorporate a reference to that planting
Right,
plan in the
our
order,
Plan.
so.
Okay.
All right?
All right. And there's no other protection that we should be affording in that riverfront area that I can
I
think
think
of.
you made excellent points, Frank, about, I mean, it's in a pretty developed area, removed from that well-defined kind of urban stream.
Right.
That's-
Any other questions? Okay. Take a motion.
I make a motion to close.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Thank you very much.
So you'll just double the size of all the shrubbery that's there?
Double or triple?
Well, maybe triple. We haven't decided yet, but the orders will decide.
I didn't know you were in the nursery business now.
Just want to make sure we get the right plants.
hey, Greg, is that certification you put on there, is that wording something that you came up with, or is that,
This here?
yeah, is that spelled out somewhere?
That was required by
Planning
planning.
Well, this
aspect?
is, I don't know if you met your
Hadn't seen
neighbors
that
or not.
before. Hadn't seen the
Excuse
tree
me.
box before.
Yeah.
We like that.
When you go into the brewery, right on the right, it's not a good.
Amy? This is, Bob, have you met your neighbor, have you met, this is Bob Berwick, who's developing this. Maybe you guys could just take a minute when you're on the, Greg? Do you have another one after this, or are you all set? Maybe you guys could just chat a little bit about that.
Oh, he's,
Thank you.
Thank you.
that's all right.
We have an ANRAD for 106 Chief Justice Cushing on December 3rd. We gotta open it.
Oh, you're gonna open it? Go.
Okay.
Yeah. 6:35, you can
So on December 3rd, 2018, at 6:35 PM, the Town Hall of Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of the Town of Scituate for an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, ANRAD, on properties located at 606 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, Scituate. Abutters and interested parties are invited to attend.
Okay, and I make a motion to continue 606 Chief Justice Cushing Highway to December 17th at 6:20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we've done our certificates of compliance, we have no extension requests, so.
Well, we do, but it's not for next meeting, right? For border, 36 border?
I mean, I have it.
But it is not.
Do you guys remember that one, 36 border?
Is that,
And,
Ann Gilbert?
yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
could
I
issue her,
remember- yeah.
I wouldn't mind.
whatever happened there?
She's just trying to get I saw her a little while ago, I
Did ya?
reminded her to make sure she got her
Okay.
extension.
Yeah, so she
Oh, I
filed
didn't-
for an
yeah.
extension. and
That's a
she's
good,
trying
that's
to
gonna
get
be an
things going.
interesting
Yeah.
project if she ever goes forward. Can I make a motion to continue?
Sure.
I make a motion for a 3-year extension for 36 Border Street?
Perfect.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Yeah, that's fine.
Orders?
Yes, I make a motion that we accept the orders as written for 47 Brook Street. Second?
Second, okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion that we accept the orders for the Crosby property as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is that it?
That's it.
What else are we missing, Amy? This could be two.
Subcommittee, project updates, miscellaneous. Do you guys wanna hear me talk about stuff? I can go through my book.
Keep it too short, that's fine. We could be out of here by 7 o'clock if you,
Well, I think that you're in the loop. I mean, we
Yeah.
have a lot of email communication. Is there anything that anybody wants to talk about? I mean, there's been some go-around about Hummerock and trying to get the contractors on board with
The plower contractors?
appropriate
Yeah.
course of action
Okay.
and
do
The
you think
update
that's
on
where
the-
the issue is? I mean, if there's like a pre-construction meeting or something like that, I mean, it's the DPW is the contractor, or
Right.
it's the property owner, right?
Right.
And they've hired subcontractors, so we can have those, but it's the chain of command and getting that stuff down.
It's the,
That's where
Yeah.
the problem comes, because a lot of the plow guys still haven't signed up, they're still looking for them.
Yeah, but this gets more intense with like storms and
Well,
stuff,
that's
and
what I'm
making sure the
saying,
material.
yeah. And then
Goes
it's
in the right
crazy.
place, or it doesn't.
Well, I've been in communication with Kevin Cafferty a number of times, and we're setting up a meeting, and then I think there's gonna be other meeting, I mean, it's not like it's forgotten. So we know that, they know there's an order of conditions and it needs to be followed. To the extent that the message gets communicated down the ranks, that seems to be the ongoing problem that you're talking about, right?
Right.
Yeah. I've met with Mr. Lopes, who's one of the contractors, he came in, and, you know, yeah, just, sometimes you end up with one cowboy, and they just don't do the right thing. I don't know how you're gonna police it, I honestly
either.
don't.
And
Rich,
No, it's done under.
Rich can be out there.
No,
done under very difficult circumstances though, too.
But I think it's
Quick
after
moving.
that, it's like if it's not done properly, it's getting it corrected fairly readily would be the key in my mind. I mean, we can't anticipate that during a storm and all those events that everything's gonna get executed perfect. It's just not gonna happen. I mean, those guys are lucky to tell which, sometimes you're just going by where the telephone poles are to know where the damn street is
Right,
in a storm. But
Right.
it's after the storm once everything sort of settles, that they go back and maybe correct a few of the things that need to get done. And I don't know how maybe we can try to reinforce that.
It is
Right.
really difficult, at least in the north end. The storm itself, when the day it happens, is not the big issue. The only idea is to keep that road open so that if there were an emergency, the fire and police can get up there. When it's really bad, it takes days to do that. And that's where, if I lived up there, and I don't live that far, but if I did, I would say, hey, you got days to do this, you can do it right. And that's not been what's happened the last 3 years, and there is an order of conditions, and I know Kevin knows it, and the contractors, I understand, are under a bit of a conundrum. They're under pressure to get it done as quickly as possible, and getting it done quickly is not always the same as getting it done right.
right.
And I understand that to a point, but if they get it done wrong, it makes it worse when the next storm comes, and it's exacerbated. So that's why it's so important, and that's why I think the people get so upset about it.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't look like there's significant high tides for a few weeks.
No, that's true.
There's a plus.
yeah, there's on a positive note.
Anything
should
but-
have
The low tides.
This should be
My
good for
Frank's
the
no
next 4
tide
weeks.
calendar.
There you go. Get you a new one improved. All
for January.
right, well, hopefully
It's a
we
tough
can
one. It is a tough one.
deal with some of that. I'm not here to prolong this meeting tonight, if anybody else is,
I have one other thing.
yep.
Hopefully at next meeting, in preparation to that, you'll get a packet of the 5 trail maps that'll be done, along with the short and the long text. You'll get them in advance of the meeting, by the deadline, to review them.
Hey, Jen.
It's more about finding any problems in the maps, if you see something there. And the text is something that can obviously be so much more easily changed. So if there's things that we want to update, we can, but let's get the spirit of the document moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And in the spring, we'll have the other 2, and we'll be, just as a tiny heads up, what you'll be getting is kind of the front of the map, which is the map, as opposed to the back of the map, which would be more refined with like the text summary and like a rules and regs side of it, just because we're not going to go through that process until we're like actually printing them, which will be in the spring.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I was thinking that the intersection number 7
Oh, yeah?
at the Ellis
You want to
Trail,
change the trail color too?
maybe they should, no. I know this has been painstaking.
Yeah, but it's worth it.
Yeah,
And so hopefully after that meeting, we can get them, these 5 at least, just up on the conservation website.
That would be good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds great, yeah.
yeah, no, I'd be looking forward to hearing. Have they done any of the text yet, Jen, or are they?
Yep,
I haven't been privy to those.
that's okay.
It's on a need-to-know basis.
Yeah.
We met this weekend about it again.
Wow.
So we're making progress.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah, yeah. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, Marla and the team have been doing great. From a communication side of it, the Mariner wants to do an interview with some of the people, which will be nice for publicity.
Awesome.
Yeah. To let
That's
people know,
great.
'cause they're always asking.
Yeah.
That'll be great, yeah.
Yep.
We're, the trails and the maps are gonna be way ahead of the access at the rate.
That was going to be my next question
Well,
to you
not
after.
necessarily.
No, we're-
It depends upon the contractors. The RFP hopefully is out first of the year. It's being worked on now.
Proposals to build it.
Yeah.
Go out
Those
there.
have to go out, and they're being worked on as we speak. And, that's the goal, to get it out. And if it gets out, and if the contractors,
If it doesn't work out, then we're gonna go into phase 2 and we'll be under construction building them ourselves, so.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, who
Well,
knows?
What about the RDA we talked about for that, where we walked it?
Oh,
Down by the
Oh,
brook?
shoot. Yeah.
yeah.
What's that?
The bridge for
Oh,
Higgins
that
McAllister
Guess where that's at?
On Frank.
with your assistant.
All right,
We can talk about it.
yeah,
I can help.
thank you.
That,
The Higgins McAllister Bridge.
The big one.
Yep, we gotta get that going. Okay, we,
it's an RDA. Frank.
yeah,
It's
I
an
know, I
RDA.
know.
He
All
actually
right,
wrote that down, it's good.
It's an RDA.
okay.
Okay, you done?
Doug, what's your, expertise in permeable pavement?
You just write on the plan, proposed permeable pavement.
That's your expertise.
That's my
Thank you.
expertise right there.
Okay.
I've actually never, I mean, I've certainly developed plans that had that, and then you take in account that the, that how it affects your drainage calculations.
Mhm.
But, when we used to propose those, some people would say, like, as soon as those things silt up, they're
They're not permeable.
they're not permeable anymore.
Right.
So,
Yeah, maintenance is key.
yeah, and I don't even know how you maintain something that's already in the ground.
So we
So-
go and vacuum it?
Vacuum?
Reap it, yep.
Seems
So-
like it would get silted up pretty
Why,
tight.
is there something we're gonna be
Maybe.
adding those to? I mean, you see them, they put them in, and there's areas that, there's a whole development we did, and the whole area was in an aquifer protection zone, so every lot had to meet, like, I remember what it was, like 25% pervious or something like that. So they were all over there. This was in Norwell, and all throughout that, it was Wildcat subdivision, all throughout that thing, there's those permeable pavers. But I always want to see now that it's been in
But how about
existence for
permeable
7 or 8.
pavement, like asphalt,
Some of it was like that too,
really?
yeah. And so people were putting it in for their driveways, because if they wanted to put in a pool, then they have to make it up somewhere else, and so
Yeah.
all this stuff was in there. But, so now it's 7 or 8 years later, I'd love to go see how well they're all working, but I don't know.
But in an aquifer situation, it would seem like, that would allow for recharge, but if like, say, oil or gas or anything spills, doesn't that just go right through it like
Yeah.
water?
Yeah, it doesn't provide any, it doesn't do any cleaning. It's just strictly getting water back into the ground.
Hmm.
So I've always had a question on, you know, in engineering practices, it's always best to have water touch grass. And, you know, that's just what you want, because the grass cleans it, and,
It can't always happen.
it can't always happen.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, engineering, if you kind of went away from diverting all the water into structures and then having an outflow that has to be dealt with if it's spread out throughout a site, through ditches and things like that, is a more environmentally friendly way of development. Because the water,
Treatment.
well, you try to treat the water as soon as the wet rain hits the ground, as quick as you can get it treated, instead of collecting it and then treating it all at once.
Well, let's just say like the project that we just closed on. So they're gonna pave that whole back area. That's all gonna drain to a basin that's supposed to do some cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
And then that water's gonna go back underneath and essentially be put into the gravel. And the herring brook is below that,
Right.
I think that's
or a reservoir.
Right, and and that should clean, that system, because it's gonna go into that box that has those, there's filtration in there, and then when it goes into those chambers, that's all gonna go through stone, and it's gonna have a separation. By the time it gets down into the aquifer, that should theoretically be pretty well clean, unless there was a contamination spill, like if there was something that water won't clean through baffles and stones and stuff like that, like
But don't
toxic
those usually
material.
also have an area to separate, like some sort of hooded piece or something where if there's oil or whatever, that typically floats?
Yeah, that's why I've never seen that before, that tree thing that that they have in there.
in the gray.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I guess the idea is that's cleaning it for you,
Okay.
that Christmas tree in there, whatever is gonna be in there. I have never seen it before. My only question about things like that and is if they fail.
Right.
You know, the only place the water can go then would top over and go down to CP's in the ice house.
Right.
So I would have expected that would have been the people that you'd see here tonight.
Well, that guy owns that property, so.
Oh, so yeah, okay.
So he was here.
So he was here.
And I think that property would have been more difficult to redevelop if it were in the aquifer protection or the
Right.
zone 2.
Right.
It just so happens that although it's close to it, it's not in it there.
Right,
So, although
Okay.
we have other sites that are
right.
in aquifer, but not, more than that, they're in the zone 2, which gets that even extra level of scrutiny. The zone A's and the zone 2s, so,
Okay,
yeah.
Gillingham lived there, didn't they?
I think so.
Yeah, Jane. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would look at it that when we get to that, but I'd like to know more about the longevity of those type of build-outs myself.
Sure,
Well, you
we'll
can
get,
go out and check
you'll have
on
your
it.
chance.
Okay.
Okay,
That might also affect our thinking on some of these projects where we're really pushing hard to have, you know, just shells or something like that, and they come in and they say, well, we'll do this permeable pavement. How much good is it really doing?
right.
Really isn't, or it may not be.
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, don't buy any trouble. Are we set?
I'm good.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Paul, you're